Alrighty, how's it going everybody? Combo here. As you probably read by the title, this video is going to be just a little bit different than the typical stuff I put out on the channel. Understand that I am trying to be as self-aware as possible throughout this. So I understand I'm a content creator. I've put over 600 hours in this game. So the things that I see, the little things, are going to be a lot more apparent to me. So I don't want to sound like a Debbie Downer. I also understand that my perspective is limited to my own experiences. So I'm not speaking for anybody else here. I'm only speaking for me. So I want to make that very clear as the video starts. The reason I'm making this video is I was actually heavily inspired by a few other smaller content creators, specifically Q's Riot and Sir Yellow Jacket. They made some fantastic state of the game videos for the finals, so I'll put both their channels in the descriptions if you want to check them out. I'm going to be kind of piggybacking off their arguments, so once again, you know, it's important that you go check out their stuff to kind of have that enlightened context as to what we're talking about. Additionally, this video is not scripted, so Combo is going to ramble. He's going to sound stupid, and you know, that's what you came here for, right? So it's going to be great. And I'm going to do my best to not be overly negative. Every single issue I bring up on my little list here, I'm going to provide a solution that I think. Understand, I don't make games, man, but at the end of the day, right? I'm saying this because I care about the game. I've made over 100 videos on the finals, so obviously I care, man. And that's why I'm making it. So with that being said, I'm going to get right into it here. Not going to do too much introduction. I've already yapped for over a minute, so let's talk about 4 things that I think are kind of an issue right now, and why I think the finals has a balancing problem. So, first thing I'm going to talk about here is the abundance of nerfs and the non-abundance of buffs, why it's happening, and how we can fix it. So, I brought this up in all of my tier list videos recently. With the $100,000 major happening later this year, Embark and feels like more Nexon to me have put a more heightened view on the competitive aspects of the finals. And what that's led to, in my opinion, in my observation, is there's been somewhat of a bias in what crowd they're listening to as to what things are getting nerfed and what things are getting buffed. Now, I understand. You gotta listen to the players who are good at the game, because they play the game more, they understand the game at a deeper level. But does that necessarily lead to fun things? Which brings me to my point. I think Embark here recently has been listening to the competitive community way too fucking much, comparatively speaking, to the casuals. In my eyes, the finals has always been a casual game. I do not think Cash Out is a competitive game mode. That's stupid. This is not a competitive game. There's destruction, there's so much randomness, there's so many different weapons. The Sandbox team, I can't even imagine how insurmountable it must be to try to balance things in this game, which is why it's important to embrace the stupidity sometimes. I understand that players, for example, I play with Tez, he's a top 500 player, also put his channel in the description. Him and I talk all the time about balancing in this game, and you know, some of his opinions are very different than mine because he's playing at the absolute highest level, where most of the time what I do, and I consider myself a pretty good player, you know, I just play with people on stream, do World Tour. Once again, I've played at games, you know, once again at the highest level, and once again, it happens every time where we get this over-reliance on input from these top players, and it gives no room for these lower players who are just picking up the game to have any fun. Because at the end of the day, nobody wants to see their favorite weapon that they've invested a shit ton of time in get absolutely neutered. We also don't want to see unique tech get taken out of the game. Tech that makes weapons, you know, that is part of their identity. For example, I'll bring something up here. A weapon that I still think was unjustly, absolutely neutered was the sword. Now, once again, I'm partial to Sir Yellow Jacket and all my sword users out there, but at the end of the day, right, I understand kind of why Embark did it. At the lower levels of play, sword was oppressive, right? I'm gonna be honest. Now, I'll get to the competitive aspect and why we're listening to the pros maybe too much here. But once again, people didn't like the damage, people didn't like getting essentially one-shot, but once again, with things like the double barrel, things that can one-shot you like that, it took astronomically more skill to use the sword, so Embark nerfed the damage. And if they only nerfed the damage and they left the techs in the game, I'd have been fine with it, because for me, it's like, okay, we're taking that out. Now, if you want to be successful, not only do you have to lab combos with the sword, you gotta lab the techs. And I think those unusual, cool almost, borderline game-breaking techs that take a ton of skill to pull off are so exciting. They're so fun. I mean, go back to, let's think TF2, rocket jumping, things like that, things that were never intended to be in the game, and then players took them to the next level, and those are some of the most hype plays you can see. Animation canceling, things like that. It kills me that Embark took those away. It took away the damage, and it took away the skill expression that came with some of these, and you can argue that they're exploits. The lower level player base said, hey, we don't want Sword to do as much damage, and the higher player base said, we'll get rid of these stupid animation cancel text because it's an error, it shouldn't be in the game. And what happens is the players who invested time in the Sword, all their time feels like it's been wasted now. I do want to bring up another one. This is probably a better example. Let's talk about the sledgehammer, people, because this is a hot topic right now, and I feel like I need to put my word on it. So, understand, in my opinion, I do agree with the sledgehammer nerf at the highest level of play. Because once again, playing World Tour with chat, even if they were using Winch Claw, the average player in the finals, which is anywhere from like gold to bronze, it's about 70% of the player base, if not more, they weren't using the sledgehammer in these super broken ways. They weren't going up doorways. They weren't winching the cash box out in the open and making it inaccessible, right? They weren't doing that. They were running at you with the sledgehammer, and most of the time, when I'm using something like a sniper, getting bodied. But here's what matters, man. They were having fun. And we go back to what retains the most players. The finals is not Rocket League. We don't have this super sweaty esports scene that has been developing over a long period of time. What we have in the finals is a bunch of dudes who are coming home from work, or people who just want to break from the overly sweaty competitive games. They come home, they throw on the sledgehammer, they want to bonk people over the head. They're not trying to play for a major. I mean, look at how the game started with the game show events, low gravity, alien invasion. Are you telling me that's esports friendly? Once again, I feel like the way Embark is moving towards the balancing and leaning towards those competitive players, in my eyes, is an assault on the original identity of the finals, the wackiness, the zaniness, the destruction, the game show aspect. Game shows are not an esport. They're supposed to be stupid. They're supposed to be funny. So I don't understand why Embark is leaning into this nerf everything, make it all perfectly clean, make it all perfectly balanced, when to me that's not why I started playing this game. And that's not why the majority of people started playing this game, in my eyes. So once again, in my opinion, if I had to propose a solution to fix this issue, I've heard people say this, I don't know how Embark would do it or how they would get the funding from Nexon to do it, because once again, we got games like Arc Raiders coming out. Once again, I'm not a games designer. I'm not sure how the funding or spending or how that's allocated, right? I'm not going to act like I do. But in my eyes, if they wanted to nerf more than buff, and they want to make this game more competitive, in my opinion, they need to have two separate balancing teams for casual and competitive. And this is a hot take, and Yellow Jacket said this, and before you guys crucify me, understand that I don't think Terminal Attack was the right idea for Ranked. But what was the right idea, and I cannot stress this more, is shaking up Ranked as a game mode. Because when you have casual and Ranked as the same game mode, but they're played at completely different levels and skill expressions are completely different between both, it's impossible to find a perfect middle ground. So in my eyes, Ranked needs to be a completely separate game mode, and then we can talk about balance. Then we can talk about what needs changed. Because at the end of the day, it's a lot easier for pro players to adapt than for casual players. So stop nerfing shit, let people have their fun, and if we need to talk about Ranked, we can balance it separately. Because we're driving players away, we're killing weapons, we're killing weapon identities. That is what this game was founded on. We need to stop doing that. So that's my take on that one. The next one we're going to talk about here, we've talked about the casual play, about the melee weapons. We're going to talk about the healing meta, and why, as I said in the beginning, the healing meta, I think, really leans more into the sentiment that we need more buffs. Because we have things like the H+ infuser that can take a heavy from no health all the way back to full. Now, personal opinion, I don't know why Embark decided that every single build needs the ability to heal. I don't get that. From my personal experience, usually when I drop games and when games become, the least fun is when support is the strongest, right? Think back to Overwatch when Brig got released. Destiny 2, when I was a top 500 player, I played during the healing meta. Everybody had restoration, which basically means you're walking around with permanent healing and all the time to kills get absolutely fucked. What kills me about the healing meta too is, I've said this 100 times, Embark has done such a good job, for the most part, other than the nerfing that we've been seeing recently, at fine-tuning weapons to where nothing feels astronomically broken. The time to kills were down to a science, and now we introduce healing on top of everything and completely fuck the balance. So now we're at a point where it's like, okay, we either need to rework healing, which I'll talk about, or we need to buff shit and make it do more damage because everybody's running healing. If we buff things, we counter the healing. If we don't buff things and we nerf things, healing gets stronger. Healing is not fun to play against. It's much more fun to play aggressive and fight people than to sit in a corner, buy a ball, or watch your teammate shoot you in the face. I don't think that's a hot take. My thought, and something I've seen the community mention how to nerf healing, and I really like this, is to introduce a counter, similar to like kind of the rock, paper, scissors that we already see. For example, fire gets rid of gas. Healing has no counter though. I saw one that why doesn't glitching reduce your ability to heal? So if I throw a glitch grenade at you and you're getting healed, I think your healing should be cut in half, or maybe even more. And then what you do is give every single class a glitch grenade. I've also seen a lot of people say that, you know, maybe the finals is leaning too far towards ability spam rather than gunplay. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think the gadgets and the abilities are kind of what make this game interesting. But if we just introduced giving something like a glitch grenade to each build and reducing the healing you get while you're glitched, I would be happy. Anything we can do to introduce counterplay and make people think before they just slap a healing gadget on and, you know, essentially destroy the balance that Embark has worked so hard for so many seasons to achieve. It just makes me so sad. Like, once again, the time to kills, the 3 different builds was already hard to balance enough, and then you introduce healing on top of it. Oh, it's so sad, man. So we need a counter for healing. We either need to buff the weapons or introduce a counter, because here's what you don't do. You know, as bad as this might sound, rework the healing infuser. The heavy gadget's fine, the heal gadget's fine. We can say those are fine, even though they have their issues. But if you start nerfing healing, what are we doing? We're just adding things in the game to nerf them. Buff the weapon damage, buff things back to where they were, add a counter to healing, and it can stay in the game. But there needs to be a counter. There needs to be a risk-reward factor, and there needs to be the ability to swap to something to counter it. That's the big thing. That's all I'm saying with healing. I don't want to go too far into it because I do see Embark doing something about it in the future, because I think the community has been pretty vocal on it. Next 2 things I'm going to talk about here, not quite as much, but things that are really driving me insane. First one here, servers. Embark has made it very clear this is something they're actively working on, so I'm not going to go too far into it, but I do have something that maybe the community won't agree with me with. But since this game has came out, the servers have been slowly getting worse. Once again, YouTuber Tez, we've talked about this. Something this game would greatly benefit from. I think the majority of the player base maybe wouldn't be super happy about it. For the mid-season patch this season, we don't need a huge event. We don't need anything crazy. We need a huge quality of life, just server fix section, a weapon buff section. You know, we just need something that's going to make the game feel good. We need, for basically what I'm proposing is for the mid-season is just a big quality of life update. That's what we need. I love the events. You know, I love the, a lot of people hate them. I think the wheels are kind of fun, in my opinion. They make for funny content. They make for funny reactions. But for this mid-season patch, Embark, let's dedicate some resources and just fix the servers. Because I'm on stream, trying to play with viewers. I've never seen so many match disconnects. I've never seen so much latency to the point where I feel insane. Like, the fact that me, and I spend a pretty good amount on my system, I have to restart my game about 2 times, 3 times every 3 games, maybe. Once again, it's getting ridiculous. So the servers, I know they're working on it, but the servers need some help. So that's all I'm going to say on that. Embark's already on it. I'm already beating the dead horse here. So that's my take on that. And the final one here that I want to talk about, and I understand this is a bad one. This is where Combo gets some flack sometimes, and that's completely fine. But goddamn, does the finals have a cheating epidemic, man? Holy shit! So on stream, I've been called out by other YouTubers on this, and that's fine. I like it when people keep me honest. It's important. It's an exercise in humility how you respond, and most of the time, you know, they're 100% right, and I need to watch my mouth because my word does carry some weight somehow. Not sure how you guys let that happen, but the point I'm making here is, in my experience, over the last 3 streams, right? We've ran into some people who are exploiting the game, and I have a theory as to why the cheaters have gotten so fucking bad lately. So Embark added the system where you can refer a friend to get some cosmetic rewards. And what I've been noticing lately is a lot of like level 8 or level 7 accounts that are doing this refer a friend that have perfect accuracy, are headshotting me across the map. What I'm saying is the refer a friend thing is great in concept, but when you have a free game like the finals, you have fucked us. You have fucked us. This is promoting so goddamn much cheating in this game to where like people on stream, I get people say, Combo, you're not crazy. I've watched this happen. This happened in Destiny. This happened in For Honor. This is not a new thing. When you introduce a refer a friend program and you don't update the anti-cheat to accommodate for it, you have created problems. So once again, I don't want to sound super negative on this, but this is a problem, this is an epidemic, and it's getting tougher and tougher to identify cheating, right? I understand, cheating is an epidemic in every game, right? I'm not shitting on Embark here, and a lot of the money that gets allocated to the anti-cheat probably comes from Nexon, and I don't even know how much they're helping him here, so I understand, I sympathize, I really do. But goddamn, the amount of Cronus, the amount of Zim, the amount of soft wall, just everything I'm seeing. And just to kind of put more, to give some credit to Embark on this one, there's been 3 separate times over the last few weeks that I've reported people. I don't usually do that. And when I do that, I'm super confident. 3 out of 3 times I've gotten a message back in my little Embark notification box in the finals that those people have been banned. Once again, it's just coming from a game like Destiny 2, where cheaters completely ruined the competitive space. Watch some videos on that. Look up Destiny 2 cheats. You'll have your brain fucking shocked, man. I say this not as a salty gamer, but from a place of concern and from somebody who's seen what happens if you let this shit go unchecked for too long. So this needs to be fixed. This is the most adamant one I have. This shit needs to be fixed soon, because if you don't, people are gonna leave in droves. I'm telling you, I've watched it happen. But anyways, people, that's all I have. This video has already gone on for way too long. This is a little ranty, and I know it sounds more negative, and I fucking hate it, because I know I'm gonna get shit for a video like this. I did last time. But at the same time, I need to hear your opinions. This is meant to be an open discussion piece. This is not a hit piece. I'm telling you, this is not a hit piece. This is from the heart, and there is a lot of soul and love for this game behind it. I want to see the finals be successful. I know it can be, but we're seeing some concerning things. The nice thing is the player base is growing. So this isn't like, oh, the finals is dying. It's not true. The player base is growing, so that's fucking awesome. Let's keep it that way. So hopefully some of these things could maybe help with that, or maybe I'm just a dumb skeleton guy with no brain. But you guys let me know. This has been Combo. Thank you so much for coming and watching. I love all of you, and I'll see you guys in the next video with a smile on my face and a bit more of a positive outlook on things. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to my rant, and yeah, I'll see you guys later. Peace out, everybody.